to Small Town Big Business, a podcast about doing business in small towns across the Midwest. I'm your host, Allison Hassler with Southern Illinois Vacation Rentals.
And I'm Russell Williams. I'm the director of Ethos Small Business Incubator and Co-working Spaces. So glad that you joined us, and you joined us at the Citadel building, which is down here in Marion, Illinois, Tower Square Plaza downtown. We want to thank our sponsors for making the Small Town Big Business podcast possible. It includes Fowler Heating and Cooling, Arcadia Wealth Group, Like Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Swinford Media Group, and of course, Union Street Arts.
You can join the Small Town Business community by subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen, including Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Podbean, Apple, or watch the videos on YouTube. Subscribing is free, and you won't miss upcoming episodes that are released every 2 weeks.
And if you want to know more about Small Town Big Business or Ethos Small Business Incubator and Co-working Spaces, you can contact me, Russell Williams, at russell@watermarkethos.org, or on our Facebook page, Ethos at the Citadel on Tower Square Plaza.
All right. And if you are new to our podcast, welcome. We interview successful business owners and founders to find out what makes their business thrive in small towns. And today, our guest is Katie Fowler, owner of Lavish
Bath Box.
Lavish Bath Box. I knew I was going to mess that up.
It's a mouthful.
Well, welcome, Katie Fowler. Thank you for coming on the show with us today.
Of course. I'm so excited. I've been listening to the podcast since you guys started.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's exciting to be here.
Yeah, you said you're a podcast listener.
I am. I was showing Allison that, with your Spotify Wrapped, it shows you what podcasts you listen to the most often. And it was Brene Brown, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Love Brene.
Yeah.
And then you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so right up there at the top.
Yeah, we're just like Brene Brown. We're just very professional, as you can tell already, right?
Yes, very much so. Well, let's start out with our listeners. Let's pretend that they are not from the area. They do not know what Lavish Bath Box is. So can you give us that elevator pitch of exactly what you do, and we'll take it back from there and go with your origin story.
Absolutely. So Lavish Bath Box is a subscription service and now a retail boutique as well, featuring almost primarily handmade personal care, bath and body goods, home care that are made by very small companies or individuals. We like to feature, independent artists, if you will, so that, when you're buying small, you're supporting all of these other makers. So
for women and men.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although the men's section has grown larger than I ever thought that it would. So that's an exciting addition too.
So what made you come up with Lavish Bath Box?
So it was kind of an organic thing. Most of my good ideas happen in conversation with other people, often in a text thread or a Facebook comment section. And I was lamenting about how the opportunity to source these types of products or buy these types of products in a rural area was difficult.
Yeah.
Like you have to drive, up to a big city to find these handmade products with intentional ingredients, and that
and
are also
people drive far.
Yes. Yeah. And they're also fun and colorful. They're not, just because it's natural doesn't mean it has to be boring.
Yeah.
And I was lamenting about how much I love these type of products, but you always have to drive a couple hours to find them. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be really cool if we had access to something like that here? And I was thinking about my last trip up to St. Louis. There's a store called Lush, and I've been a fan for a long time. And the last trip that I went on, there was a little blue-haired boy that showed me around and was like, if you like this, you might like that. And you can, of course, go online and buy things, but, if you're like me, sometimes you get decision paralysis.
Yes.
Or you just don't really know what to try.
Yeah.
So,
I get that way when I'm on Etsy. You type in handmade soap and then you have 3 million to choose from and then it's analysis paralysis and I just don't buy anything.
Exactly. So I thought, wouldn't it be really cool if they would just send you a box of goodies to try, and if you liked it, you could buy more, and if you didn't, you could try something else the next time. And I got to looking around, and there was no such service. So subscription boxes were pretty big back in 2016, which is when I originally started this, and I looked into what it would take to do it and launched 2 months later.
Now, did you have business experience before this?
Well, so I've grown up around a business environment. Okay. So my dad owns Fowler Heating and Cooling, and he's actually been on your show before. And I actually worked there for 12 years, starting when I was in college doing data entry, and then it's one of those things you start and you never leave. Yeah. So, everything that I have learned about business has been from him. Okay. And still to this day, he's, a lot of daughters call their moms to talk about recipes, but I'm calling dad to talk about profit and growth strategies. So
that's really terrific to have that mentor there.
It is.
So were you working for Fowler Heating and Cooling when you started doing this research?
I was.
Okay.
And I didn't tell him about it at first because, I was like, well, if this idea is silly. But eventually I got too excited about it. So, I had reached out to some companies and, of course, there's minimum orders and, minimum quantities that you have to buy. And so I was also a big fan of buying from Etsy. And so I started finding these independent makers on Etsy, on Instagram, when I would reach out and tell them what I was doing and that I was hoping to feature different vendors or makers, as I like to call them, every month, so that not only are you trying new types of products, but you're also getting exposed to an entire, a world of indie artisans that are making this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a discovery box in that way.
Wow. Okay. So I want to go back to when you started and making this decision. It seems like because you were already growing up around this, that entrepreneurship was very second nature to you. Like this, did you always feel like you were going to go in the same footsteps as your father? Or did you feel like that was a natural path for you? Or was it just like, hey, I've got an idea and I'm not scared of going out on my own and trying
the
this?
Idea.
Yeah. I'm typically not a risk taker by nature. So when people ask me what gave me the confidence to kind of start this, I honestly can't. I don't know. I don't know if it just clicked, if it just made sense in my brain. If, I had just been imbued with some secondhand confidence from my dad.
Yeah.
But, I actually studied information systems and technology at SIU. So, going to work for my dad was just kind of one of those things that happened, which I think is common when you grow up in a family business setting.
Yeah.
So, but, I took over a extra office that they weren't using to kind of, start keeping some of the product and, like packing up some of the boxes. And it quickly outgrew that.
That's really cool, because I think there's
Yeah.
a big difference between being a customer of a subscription service and saying, I want to be a provider
Right.
of
Yeah.
subscription services. That is a big leap of faith. You've done it really well, but you've done it in stages too.
Yeah. So I did launch our first box went out in March of 2016. And, of course, it started off small. And, my thought was, to just curate a box every month. And of course, I would kind of pick a theme, and by buying from really small companies, they're willing to do some really creative custom things. So I could be like, my theme is, intergalactic. Can we make a galaxy bath bomb? And they're like, yeah, sure. What do you want it to smell like? What do you want to name it? So I would, pick a theme, and we would send them out once a month. And putting the boxes together is a lot of fun for me, because you make the colors match and you make the theme, and it just all makes me feel like I have my life together. When I look at a box and everything just looks beautiful and it matches, so we started slow, and at our largest, we were shipping out about 325 boxes a month.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I think what is really fascinating about subscription boxes is that you literally can do this anywhere in the world.
Literally, you can do it out of your house, your garage, you can do it out of a storage unit, and you could, pick it up and take it anywhere if you wanted to.
Yeah. So you did graduate out of your dad's office and into a storefront, which is a whole different ball game. Can you talk about that step?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, once I had outgrown the little spare office, I had taken over the training room that he had built. And
Not for that purpose.
Right. And at some point, a couple years in, he looks at me and he says, have you considered maybe getting like a warehouse space, to do this out of? Because I'd really like to use that to train HVAC technicians instead of sell soap.
But he's still encourager, right? We know Steve.
Oh, yes, very, my biggest supporter. So, he put this very delicately.
Yeah.
I told him that I would drive by this building around the square every day on my way to work. And that, of course, I'd never set foot in it. But I thought it was just the coolest, prettiest, most awesome building ever. And he said, I know who owns that building, and so do you. And it turned out to be our next door neighbor that I've known my whole life and grew up, next to. And so we asked him for the opportunity to buy it if he ever wanted to. And he said, I think I could put some investments elsewhere if you want to take it on.
Wow.
So we did, and a lot of renovations.
Yep. Because you bought an old building in downtown.
Yeah, historic.
Yes. In fact, our building is just across the street from where we're sitting right now.
Yep.
So, but it was a really exciting process to kind of see it come together and to have the vision for what it could be.
Yeah.
And luckily, my dad is very good at that as well.
Yeah.
At kind of seeing the diamond in the rough, so to speak.
Do you like your location? Do you like being downtown Tower Square Plaza?
Oh, I love it. When I first bought the building in 2018, there wasn't this insurgence of life that has occurred here at that time. So I feel like I am very lucky to be able to be a part of that and kind of, get in early, so to speak, and kind of watch it grow.
Yeah. Well, you've actually helped that, because I know that I have sat at a few of those recruitment tables and be able to say, Lavish Box is right here and this business is over there. And so being one of the first and before what you call the resurgence of downtown, and really just seeing that vision for the space itself. You were a pioneer in the downtown resurgence, and it takes those people that see it for what it can be to make those first steps, and then it helps other people see it when they can't see it very clearly themselves. When you say, hey, look, here's a place that made a old building new again, and you can do the same thing. So
yeah, and I've used you as an example, a model, if you will, for e-commerce, especially those that may have a storefront but they don't have any subscription or e-commerce, or vice versa, someone who has e-commerce and they don't have a storefront. Because someone who's more wise than me has taught me about e-commerce, and they had research study that showed, and you can tell us whether this is true or not, that if you had a storefront, your storefront does better if you do some e-commerce, if you have a website and you're selling your product online, and vice versa. If you're exclusively only selling online, you do better if you have a storefront. And part of that principle is that people want to feel, they want to see, they want to know that you smell. They want to know that you're a real person in a quaint downtown area. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, e-commerce is kind of where it's at because people like to go online and look at the products and research the products before they ever come into the store, just to kind of get a feel for what to expect and what kind of things, and it's definitely been a benefit to us to have started online, which is a little backwards, especially for a rural area, but things are changing because, you've got a built-in customer base already, especially when you do a lot of shipping already. And so, I like to call that passive income at this point, because I can just be, sitting on the couch with my feet up and, hear my phone go off and it's a sale.
Yeah.
And not that work doesn't go into that, but, it's a comfort to know that even when the store is closed or even when the store is slow, or it's that time of year, where we're, people are out busy taking vacations, their kids are, out of school, that I've got this second income stream coming in, which is, a relief.
But during COVID, especially the outbreak of COVID, everybody went online.
Yep. Yeah. And I remember spending about, when we first heard about the shutdown, I spent about 7 hours just going through our website. Making sure our navigation was as easy as possible, setting up a pickup strategy so that we could keep going. And it was really a benefit because everything was already there, so we were able to just add a curbside option to the website. And, we actually, and I know that it was only our second year in business, but we actually continued to grow, which was, considering how many other small businesses were so struggling, and, a lot of them were just a few more bad months from closing. We were really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said about the e-commerce and how they go hand in hand with a retail. And I'm thinking about my own e-commerce behaviors as a consumer, that if I was looking side by side and deciding whether I'm going to do a subscription box from somebody that doesn't have a storefront or somebody that does have a storefront, I think it boils down to a trust that if you have a storefront, and it may not be this way for everybody, but I know that if you have a storefront, then I feel more confident that this is going to be a personalized, very conscious decision for you and I to be working together versus somebody that doesn't have a storefront. It may be out of their garage, but it also may be out of a warehouse that has, 3,000 square feet, and it's, more like a factory.
Right.
And so that's where my mind goes with it, is this really going to be personalized? And I would have more trust in that with somebody with a storefront. So, and especially your storefront's adorable. So
Thank you.
Very, very cute.
You know, because of my attention to detail, you know, I never kind of do things halfway. My dad's this way too, except he goes bigger than I'm willing to go. You know, so I made sure that when we launched, it looked very legitimate. You know, the boxes were printed and designed. One way that my schooling helps me with this is that I can manage the website all myself and do all the design myself. So, you know, I made sure that we looked really legitimate, and for a while people thought we were much bigger than we are.
Yeah.
So, but especially with this younger generation, they really appreciate the uniqueness of, you know, a small business owner. So I think that as I opened the storefront and I shared that with my subscription audience, that it excited them to see that it was just kind of me and you know, a very small group of people that were doing this.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is that you're a real person, but you have a integrity, and you've got a real response to people, a relationship with people, with your storefront, and that's reflected. Even though they may think you're a bigger business, that's reflected online. And so earlier I told the story of my wife came to your store Christmas shopping, and she had left behind her debit card. And so you contacted us by Facebook Messenger,
whatever it takes,
the same day, right? And said, your lovely wife has left your debit card at the store. And she's taken back because she's not from here. She's from a much bigger city. And so she's like, that would never happen back where I'm from. This is awesome to be part of a small town. But that's a reflection of individuals and a community, not a culture that you switch on. It's developed, and you're part of that.
Oh, for sure. You know, that one of the things that I love about being downtown is just the kindness and the support that I get from my customers, from the other small business owners. You know, it's a whole different ballgame than being kind of isolated like you are when you're, you know, just focusing on online sales or e-commerce.
Yeah.
You're kind of in it all alone. You know, so it's been a really great learning experience for me to be able to pull from and, you know, get advice from, and be able to, you know, call up one of the other business owners and be like, hey, this is, you know, like, this is what I am thinking about, you know, what's your opinion? Have you ever done something like this? And it's been a really fun thing.
That's wonderful.
That's very cool. Katie, what is your favorite part about being a small business owner?
I think it fits my personality, to be honest. Maybe it's something that runs in the blood, that I just don't want to work for someone else. I'd rather choose the, you know, 18 hours a day that I work. Sure. But you know, I like having the control over the way that things run, because I enjoy being a problem solver and putting processes into place. And you know, when you work for someone else, you can have great ideas and they don't get implemented. You know, you don't have the control over if, you know, you do come up with a great idea and implement it, if it's going to be something that everyone's going to get on board with. So, you know, I like that that I can come up with these ideas and kind of grow and expand, and I don't have anyone telling me that the old way of doing things isn't broke, so why fix it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And what's the most difficult part about being a small business owner? What's your challenges?
You know, it's a fine line that you walk between, you know, having a personal life and also in your business, and managing employees is a whole different game. I've gotten very lucky so far, but I find that to be the most difficult, just because not everybody is the same personality.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to figure out how to, make it work, and to let go of the control a little bit.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit of a way.
I don't remember if it was a Brene Brown quote or if it was somebody else, but there was a quote that really stuck with me about somebody else doing 80% spot on is better than you doing it 100% spot on. And it's like, ooh, that hit me right here.
Absolutely.
Delegation is hard.
It is. And, my dad has always been a good example, because with 30 employees, and as long as he's been in business, he's like, you really got to figure out the balance between, yes, you could do it, but is there other things that no one else can do but you? Yeah. So, you have to kind of...
It's a good nugget.
Yeah, you kind of have to figure out what are the things that are important that only you can do, and let everybody else kind of support you in the other things.
Yeah. You had mentioned that your schooling had taught you a few things. What was your schooling, and would you consider those part of your strengths, or do you have other strengths that didn't come from, formal education?
Sure. So I went to SIU Carbondale, getting a bachelor's of science in information technology, and this was back in 2004. So definitely dating myself a little there. But what I really enjoyed was the web design and the graphic design portion of that. But back then, e-commerce, website development, it was all so new that you had to, you had to learn how to take a computer apart, and about networking and things like that if you wanted to even take any classes that, or web design, and there was really only a couple. But for the most part, I'm self-taught. So I've kind of always been a computer nerd. And, so I started early in grade school, taught myself how to code. I taught myself how to use Photoshop.
Wow.
So, I definitely think that my schooling, because there were business classes involved in that degree as well. So it definitely broadened my own skill set.
Yeah.
So, I was able to build upon the things that I had already kind of dug in and taught myself.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And as a small business owner, what were those things that you didn't get training in, that you're not a natural in, that you really had to either reach out to other people or learn?
Honestly, the biggest things aren't even things that are taught in school. It's the ability to kind of put yourself out there, and to be loud and proud about, your opinions about things and your ideas. And I tend to be a little on the introverted side. Most people wouldn't say that about me if they came in my store, but it's easy to talk about things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So that's really the things that I've had to learn along the way that aren't even, taught in school.
Yeah, I like that. So what would be one tactical thing or resource that your business can't live without? Maybe besides internet, because we know that that's probably a big piece of it.
If it wasn't for these gals that are making stuff in their own little boutiques or in she sheds they've turned into soap studios, if it wasn't for the ability to find really creative people that can make these products, I think that we wouldn't be so unique, and it wouldn't be as special.
Yeah.
Because that's, I feel like, what really sets us apart from, other boutiques and, stores and that feature those kinds of products is that, you're really able to try a bunch of different things and support artists. And, it's probably the most unique thing about our business, but I love working with them because I can be sitting in my pajamas and get on Instagram and be like, hey girl, I need more bath bombs.
Yeah.
And can you whip me up some? And they're like, yeah. So, like it's a whole different kind of business networking.
Sure. Do you have vendors now contacting you about selling their product?
Oh yeah, all the time. And that started pretty early on with the subscription. I actually have a form on our website where if you're interested in becoming a vendor either for our box or for the storefront, you can, kind of fill it out, give your information. So, if it's something that I don't already have, in the store, something that I think would be a good addition, I can reach out to them and, work with some new people that way.
Yeah. Do you have a mix of local vendors and national vendors? You had mentioned that you contacted originally through like Etsy and Instagram, and that's how you started finding some of them from the beginning. Do you now have a mix of both, or are they still primarily national?
So I would say that most of them are from all over. What's really cool about it is that a lot of them are from other rural spaces like ours, small towns, because they can do what they do anywhere.
That's very cool.
But I do have a handful of local people that I buy from. In fact, there is a good friend of mine that works at SIH, and she makes bath bombs for fun in her spare time. And so we stock up with her stuff, and it's a lot of fun. She just drives them over to me, on her day off, and it's really cool.
That's great. So if anybody is listening that has a boutique artisan shop or are doing this as a hobby, then they can just get online and fill out a form, and you'll follow up based on that form, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Because I'm sure that we'll have people listening that's like, how do you get into a shop like that? Yeah. So that's really great to know.
Cool. So Katie, how has your business changed over the last 2 years of the pandemic?
I feel like for many of us, the pandemic was quite an opportunity to kind of slow down and figure out what is working and what's not. Because when you're just kind of in the daily grind, you don't have a whole lot of chances to really reflect on what you're doing, what makes you the happiest, what makes you the most money, where you're losing money. So when everything came to kind of a screeching halt and the noise in the brain kind of lessened, I was able to really evaluate what I wanted to change and how I wanted to grow. And so I felt like the next step for us was to change our subscription model to a seasonal instead of a monthly, partly because we have been such a success in the store that I didn't expect. And also because I supplies were difficult to get. It was affecting every industry, especially small businesses who can't warehouse the kind of things that larger companies can. And, it would allow us to, feature a bigger variety of products, not just bath goodies, which is definitely something I've learned having the storefront, is that some of our best sellers aren't bath items, and there's just, it gives it a broader appeal to different people, makes it more giftable, and so we changed that, and it's been a good thing so far.
Yeah, that's very smart. Knowing that you are in this small town, and you are a Marion native.
Yes.
But you really could have this anywhere in the world. Big city, small town, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. What do you like most about being here in your business?
When I was young, like a lot of other young people my age, I was like, I'm getting out of this one-horse town. I went to Carbondale and quickly discovered that Marion was pretty cool. But it's really a great place because we've kind of got the best of both worlds. Like you can go to the other side of town and you have, Target and some of the other necessities. But then you can come downtown and it's just this beautiful group of small businesses to explore. And one of my favorite things about being in a small area is the kind of support that you get. Like having direct access to the people that are making decisions, like the mayor, who is so willing. Before I even opened the store, he called me and said, I want to have a conversation about what you do and, what your vision would be, for the square. And it's just so nice that it's community over competition here.
Yeah.
And
we've heard that a couple times.
Yeah, we have.
For sure. And the best thing about the downtown area is that I feel like the younger generations, it's even more important for them to have unique spaces and to shop unique products and be able to have relationships with the people that they're shopping with. And, I wasn't sure how I would fit in this kind of old way of doing things. But what I've noticed about this area, because we're so small, the change or the opportunity for growth is really large, and it's been really exciting to see it happen. And I tease my dad all the time that kind of the old boys club, where in small towns there was the heavy hitters, so to speak, that kind of were at the center of the business world, and now there's a ton of young people, a ton of women, which I think is really cool. So my favorite thing about being in a small area is just the opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
And being able to watch it happen.
Well, even the old boys have had to think new thoughts because the economy has changed.
Yeah.
And there is opportunities, right?
Oh, for sure.
You can't be closed to what has happened the last 50 years. You've got to be open what is now.
Right. You have to get away from that whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You have to always be innovating.
Yeah.
My dad will ask me, what's your next thing? What are you going to do next?
Yeah.
And I'm like, chill. I'm going to figure this out, get this perfect, and then I'll take on my next thing. But
So when you had this conversation with the mayor about a vision for small town, what is your vision? What do you see happening here?
I would love to see, with this continued growth, I would love to see it turn into a walkable destination type place. Yeah. Somewhere where people from other places come here and get inspiration for their own downtown areas or small towns where you can just explore the whole thing and just, immerse yourself in all of these unique spaces and unique people, and have conversations with them. And I think we're getting there. And Mike was so open to listening to those ideas. And I know it's not just me. I know that he's, as it has grown and new businesses have popped up, he's very, very interested in hearing what the next generation of business owners have a vision for and what's important to them, and what could really make a difference in their success.
Yeah, that's good.
So.
And of course, a plaza is a place where people gather and they eat and have fun. And we just came back from Mexico. We were in the city of Monterrey, which is full of plazas in Mexico. And one of them, they actually expanded a current plaza. And the new name for the new place is called Gastronomic Plaza, or Plaza de Gastronomic, because that's where all the food trucks can be parked. And I thought that's really cool. I was going to suggest that as a new name for Tower Square Plaza, but I'm not sure if that's going to fly or not. What would you teach somebody if you had a new entrepreneur? What did you learn that you would like to let somebody know about?
If I could go back and kind of tell, my younger self that is just starting, it would be to cut out the noise, the negativity, the unsolicited opinions, the anxieties, because if you're never going to be ready, and you're probably going to be fearful, and sometimes you just have to do it anyway. Just kind of jump in and trust yourself and your instincts. And I think that was the hardest thing for me when I first got started, was to not listen to everybody else and just kind of trust myself and know that I could do it.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true business owner.
Well, we want to thank you. Katie Fowler, Lavish Bath Box, thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
It's fun.
Oh, yeah. I love these kind of conversations.
You've been on our list for a long time to interview, but you've been too busy.
That's both a good thing. Yes, it's a good problem.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a problem, let's have a good problem.
That's good. Well, we want to thank everybody who's been listening to Small Town Big Business and listening to this podcast episode. And we want to thank our sponsors again for making this possible: Fowler Heating and Cooling, Arcadia Wealth Group, the Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Swinford Media Group, and of course, our producers, Union Street Arts, and our producer, Luke O'Neill, owner of Union Street Arts. So thank you all.
Yeah. And remember, you can look for Small Town Big Business anywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can see us online with our YouTube channel. And remember, subscribing is free, and you will be notified when we release our next episodes, which are released every 2 weeks. If you wanted to learn more about Small Town Big Business or Ethos Small Business Incubator and the co-working spaces in Marion, please email my co-host Russell at Russell with 2 L's at watermarkethos.org.
Yeah. And I'm Russell Williams.
And I'm Allison Hassler.
Thank you for joining us.